stood in the way of that legislation to combat sanctuary cities? You got it. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. Donald Trump. All right. Laura Wilkerson, please come out.
Thank you for having me here today. Thankful for Mr. Trump allowing me to tell my story. My name is Laura Wilkerson. On November the 16th, 2010, that day started out as a regular day. My 18-year-old son Josh came in to say he was getting ready for school. He said, "I love you, Mom." I said, "I love you too, son." I walked into the door and I watched him get in his truck, drive to the end of the street until he turned. I never knew that would be the last time I would see him. Around 1 o'clock, when I hadn't heard from him, God told me that something was wrong. I left work and went to his school. His principal told me he was at school and left at his normal time. I sat down in a chair next to her and my eyes started to tear. I left there. God was just compelling me, just leading me. I went to the police station. I went by his friend's house. No Josh. Thank you. I'm starting to panic now. I know something is really wrong. I was headed home to get my husband, and I just happened to look to my left, and I see Joshua's truck parked in a strip center next to a dumpster. I stopped and looked at it. There were sticks and grass and debris up underneath it and in the back of the bed of the truck. I called the police and they came. A policeman shortly called me over and opened up the dumpster. There were Joshua's shoes and his backpack and his school stuff. Everything that had been in his truck was in that backpack in the dumpster. Our family stood in that parking lot for hours wondering if Josh was also in that dumpster. They roped it off as a car, took Joshua's truck and told us to go home. They later came to our home and said they had a suspect in custody. They said Josh had been badly hurt and they needed to find him. They called a search and rescue team, and we searched for Josh the entire next day. Later that evening, the detectives returned to our home and said they had found Josh tied up, thrown in a field, and set on fire. Instead of getting our sweet Josh home from school, we got an autopsy report that reads in part, "This body is received in a gray body bag. He's a white male weighing 100 pounds. There's a tag on his toe that bears the name Joshua Wilkerson. He has 13 braided ropes and a slip knot around his neck. It goes to his back, through his back belt loop, through his hands and his feet. He has many fractures in his face and nasal cavity. His throat and his voice box are crushed. There is major head trauma. There is significant skin slippage on his buttocks, his abdomen, his hands, and his face. There are 3 determined methods of death: head trauma, abdomen trauma, and strangulation. The medical examiner said it was torture. Josh was murdered by an illegal alien named Hermilo Morales. He was 19 years old and was brought here by his illegal parents from Belize when he was 10 years old. He had a visa to be in this country for 6 months. It had long expired. The only motive for Joshua's murder was that the killer wanted to scrap Joshua's truck for money. He was given life, which means in 30 years he'll be up for parole. He's supposed to be deported If he is, if we don't have a wall, he'll be right back to do it again. I assure you, this was our family.